Now you'll see here that what we have is our base image with our default state, and when we roll over the image, both the background of the actual image itself will change as well as our details is now visible. Hi, my name is Richard Pennycook and welcome to Export Kit. In this example, we're going to discuss creating a dynamic rollover using an image. Now, in our PSD design, we have a basic image here, and we also have a background shape, and this has a border along with an inner shadow, and we also have a few detail elements here, and you can see with this folder. So this is our details. What we want to do in the output is we want basically that when the user rolls over the image, that's when the detail element is visible, and we don't want it visible otherwise. So this is basic requirements that we have for our design, and we're going to show how to create this inside your PSD. So the first thing we want to do is we want to basically go over to our actual details element itself. Now with this, we want to add a style to this, and let's actually start with our rollover. So for argument's sake and to keep it simple, let's call this rollover. And for argument's sake again and to keep it simple, let's call this details. Now, what we want to do is control these styles in the output. So the next step we want to do is actually create our main CSS styles group. And inside we want to repeat this parent-child structure. So we have rollover, and inside rollover we have details. So let's go ahead and create that. Now, the next step that we want to do is we want to add a secondary state. So let's actually just add that here. And let's add a hover state. The requirements that we have for our design is that if the user's mouse is not over the image, so this is the normal state, that details will not be visible, so we can simply hide it. But when the user does hover, the details will be visible. So this is very important, and you can see that what we've done is created some basic CSS rules. Now to control this in our output, we will have to enable hidden layers, and you'll see this when we actually get to the export portion. The next step that we want to do is we want to actually take control of this background element also. So because of this, let's assume we're going to add another style and call this BG. What we want to do is, because we've added a style to a layer itself, we're going to have to actually define each of the layer styles. So let's go ahead and let's copy it to our actual rollover state first. Now, we want to call this the same name as the style. So because this is BG, we can simply rename this as BG. An important factor regarding CSS styles is that the size of the style is irrelevant. So in this case, what we're going to do is just create a smaller layer just so we can see how this will render in the output itself. Now, where you position this does not matter, simply because only the styles and the effects themselves from this layer will actually be translated in your output. So you can place this anywhere. Now, we have this for our base state. What we want to do is copy this also to our hover state. The important thing is that this is actually our hover state itself, and let's make sure that these have the same layer names. But what we want to do is we want to change our default state. So let's just move these so we can see both. And in our default, let's assume that we don't want the inner shadow. So let's just actually disable that. And the stroke, let's maybe make that grayish. So you'll see here that what we've now created is two styles. So one is when rollover is just basic as is, and another is when rollover has a hover state. So you'll see that this is what the background element itself will become. Now again, because we're using CSS styles, what we have for the actual default element will be irrelevant. So we can turn these off if we want. They will use our actual defined CSS styles here to render the element. So What we're going to do is we're just going to save this as is. And again, just to summarize, we added a CSS style to basically control the hover state of the entire element so that our details will only be visible when the mouse rolls over the actual image. The next step that we did was we defined two states. So this will be the default for the image background, and this will be the hover state for the image background. So let's close these and let's go ahead and export this. Sorry, let's save this actually. Now what we want to do is tab over to our exports panel and select HTML5. Now it's very important that you include hidden layers. This is because we're using a CSS style structure that will hide layers and show them as required in our project. So we can just simply go ahead and export. Now once the export is complete, we can actually take a look at the output. Now you'll see here that what we have is our base image with our default state, and when we roll over the image, both the background of the actual image itself will change as well as our details is now visible. So you can see very quickly and easily we created a dynamic rollover state for an image using our PSD without leaving Photoshop.